Albert, welcome. Always the best dressed guy at Media Post.
Morning. Everybody's good? All right, everybody's looking good. All right, so part of this presentation is really unpacking the video ecosystem beyond the biases of what we just like to buy. So we're gonna have some puns in here, some jokes. I may do a little crowd participation, but don't worry, I won't have anybody on edge, but let's kick it off. So when we start to think about video, it's well beyond where we were even 2 years ago. So we think about live, which birthed, obviously during COVID, gaming, creators, shoppable. That's really what this presentation is really to sort of get into. So we really start to explore the idea where this video is going and really chase the consumer instead of chasing just our favorite partners. Okay, so we know there's a PR bubble around streaming. Streaming wars intensify. Oh my God, I have to see one more streaming wars quote, but it's so entertaining. We just love it. We can't get away from it. And now we have the rumble of the bundles. In advertising media, we come up with all kind of cheeky taglines just to make an editorial story, and then we sort of get addicted to it and double down on it. So let's talk about the reality of this. So the whole streaming wars phrase, and I love this quote from this guy. Basically what he's saying is like, yeah, all that is not for normal people, okay? So this works for people who, again, are addicted to headlines, and he said, look, this is like some bad postman for Google or Reddit or Twitter, which does a great job of hoarding all the grumpy people. But I think at the end of the day, we're going to get into is, all right, let's move beyond the PR buzz, the bubble, and get to all the other things moving in the space. So here are the other headlines. I mean, they do call it video games. So why gaming has not been a frontier for video, beyond me, but let's pursue that. Kroger expands into CTV. Okay, this is Kroger. Okay, so when you start thinking about retail media is growing faster than CTV, we just don't talk about it because they don't host conferences. But the fact of the matter is retail media and all the advances between what Walmart is doing, I'll get into that later, what Kroger is doing, I mean, they're going to change the face of marketing because they are going to be revenue return focused with the product on the shelf in the same location. Shoppable TV is going to be big. I mean, why would we not run ads in content where people can click to buy it right there? I don't know why we're all chasing reach. We should be chasing shoppable because the CMO's job is to make revenue. He is not the chief reach officer. Just thought I'd note that. All right, so the modern era video bias. We treated media like the real estate business. So you see all the different tiers in which you could buy as a domicile. Small start, let's call that a condo. Let's call that social video. Very organic. Let's move on to the next. This is more single-family homes. This is more your endemic stuff. You know, your favorite properties you might build and do business with. The next one, you're going to move into more of the commercial. So this is apartment housing. Let's call this your DSP, SSP world. And then obviously upfronts, yes, that's when we start buying office space. The idea is that media has really been bought like a glorified real estate business. This is just better property, better real estate, a better storefront. That's a B2B philosophy. We're in the consumer business. It's not the B2B2C business. So we have to start to unwire and unpack for the fact that, look, we're not here to defend, again, our favorite brand logos. At the end of the day, the CMO is charged with making money against a consumer in a marketplace, and that does not support a B2B philosophy. I mean, there is a category. It is called B2B. I think we're in business to consumer. Yeah. So this is getting beyond the video buying bias. So let's talk about why the video reset. And some of this is a little bit granular if you can't read it, but at the end of the day, buying preferences are largely shaped outside of media. We buy what we buy because we have biases, we've talked to friends, we've had word of mouth, we trialed it ourselves. So there's a misconsumer view when you're not understanding why consumers buy what they buy. And that view is beyond, as I always say, your favorite brand logos, the partners and you like to spend dollars with, et cetera. And look, I don't have anything against them. My thing is about we're chasing a consumer view, not a media, not a pipes, not a B2B view. Okay, so the reset. The smartphone obviously redefined the very meaning of TV. Video is the gateway drug, and the drug ultimately is attention. That's signed today. So I just wanted to remember that. You're going to hear me say that again about this notion of attention, the attention stack. Video is the gateway drug. If you don't believe me, raise your hand if you don't have TikTok on your phone. Okay, so yeah, we got a whole bunch of druggies in here. All right, so let's moving on. So video is the gateway to attention. Attention is the ultimate real estate, because the consumer fires you every time they buy a competitor because you don't have their attention. Okay? That's why attention is the ultimate real estate. How many people in this room work with and or manage or are a trader for a desk? Programmatic, anyway? Okay. So you have to day trade in attention, not day trade in just the supply. That's at least what he said. So start thinking about that. Not about programmatic bidding on CPMs. Day trade in attention. Even if you're a top marketer, your pursuit is attention, because that's where the consumer is and that's where their wallet is, okay?
We are incredibly good as human beings at respecting yesterday's attention, and we're terrible at respecting today's attention because we convince ourselves that it's tomorrow's attention.
So the importance of the quote is, we believe that today's reach will equals tomorrow's attention and the next day's consumption. No, consumers don't think that way. So why are we building and buying and planning that way? That's why I say attention is the ultimate real estate. Okay, so challenging the notion of television. Obviously, mobility, or the idea of moving around, is an inherent human behavior. It's what we do most naturally. That means the idea of consumption is always on the go. Video is like water in a flood. You want to follow the attention, you look for the water spots, you look for the water stains. It's a very, very simple premise, and that's why it's really important to think about human behavior. We're constantly moving around, and what seems to be moving with us, obviously, is the notion of video, because it's proliferating. And when you start thinking about the Gen Zennial, they move as fluidly through culture and content and commerce and across all the segments as any generation ever has, so they're rewriting the rules, which means video, by and large, is following them, which means the attention is following them, which means our ad targeting and thinking needs to follow them as well. Again, another very simple premise. It's what we do. Okay, so the plurality of identity, I like this one, means the fluidity in video. The great thing about video is it allows you to identify with all the facets of who you are, because there's so much of it on so many platforms. Because in this country, by identity, you're forced to identify and pick something. You have to be black or white. You have to be Republican or Democrat. You got to be an Auburn Tiger fan or Roll Tide. It's like you don't get to be more than one. You get to pick one. But video really democratizes and pulls everything in our identity and who we are. It doesn't do that if you spend the majority of your budget on one platform. So let's just say you're a huge Hulu fan as an advertiser brand. You spend 50% of your CTV money on Hulu. Hulu is really going to galvanize into a couple facets of your identity, maybe just one. Okay, this is the problem with CBS and ABCs and their legacy days. All the programming type was the same. But video, in its proliferation in so many forms, allows an individual to identify with so many different aspects of themselves and of their consuming self, meaning how I consume clothing is different than how I consume food, which is different than how I consume electronics. And all those brands are in different categories, which is why you want to follow video, because it's where the attention is related to your category. Don't believe that one logo can sell for every category. It doesn't work that way. That's why you should always follow video as the path of attention. You guys get what I'm saying.
I think in 2030, we're all going to have many different identities, and we're going to be excited about that.
That's Scott Belsky, Chief Product Officer and Executive Vice President on Creative Cloud at Adobe. He paints a picture of a future where
every identity can create and participate in different types of content, can have different social networks. And so in some ways, think about the amount of creativity that will stimulate, especially as people can explore the other parts of themselves.
For more on this, I turn to Lauren Kunze.
So how many of you find yourself identifying with a different identity as you scroll through TikTok? You're like, oh, that's me. Oh, that's me too. Oh, yeah, that's me. Ooh, that's me. Okay, that's, again, I don't want to acknowledge that one. That's the idea of what video does, and that's why you have to be constantly moving as it's moving, because all those different identities that people identify with presents a different consumption opportunity, a different purchase psychology, and that's really what this is about getting into. And the fact of the matter is the average platform is not oriented to break down consumer psychology. You as a brand or day trader have to pursue attention to find out what it is presenting to the user in front of them. Okay, so let's get to the attention stack, one of my favorite words. So The IAB in 2019 coined the intention stack in a direct-to-brand brief they did. It was about 100 pages. If you look in the middle, the blue box, you will see that a lot of our favorite media partners are not necessarily listed there. But you'll see the ones that make total sense. Obviously, you got TikTok, you got YouTube, you got all the social platforms. And what this study really got into is this is where people are spending the most amount of their time, period. So when you start looking at your business strategy, your targeting strategy, your consumer strategy, you should probably have a lot of these logos ticked off. If you don't, your competitor probably does, and they're probably making money you're not. Okay, very important because we get to this notion right here. So now we have attention now as a measurement. So DoubleVerify is sort of doubling down on this. The IAB, starting in Australia, is starting to look at the early findings really about, hey, did people really pay attention to that? Did it move them in mind share? Now, some of this is a little bit white noise and not getting to the point of the consumer, but I like the fact that attention is a metric more so than a gross rating point, because the consumer doesn't know what a gross rating point is anyway, okay? It's kind of like a jury in a court of law. They don't know your business, okay? All they know is they're trying to get to A to B and buy something. But this is great progress in terms of moving to this point of attention as the ultimate nugget in pursuing the consumer and moving them versus what we have been looking at, GRPs, TRPs, impression, reach, share of voice. Oh, I hate that term. At the end of the day, is get to a share of I spend a whole lot of money with you. Okay. So TikTok's virality. It's a stream of dopamine, and we love it. But it has taught us everything about video and its movement and how powerful it can be. Its virality is probably the best business case in the modern era. It's why a lot of the platforms are all trying to mimic the TikTok effect. And the whole notion of TikTok made me buy it or TikTok taught me teaches you everything. So beyond TV, CTV, OTT, and AVOD, and look, I buy all these things. My thing is that the marketplace is more expansive than just those. So video that's live. I've actually started in the live streaming sector. When Ustream, if you ever heard that company, anybody heard a company called Ustream? Yeah, I started with them years ago, literally live streaming and amplifying shows. But the whole notion of being around live is really audience engagement in real time where something is taking place. Less diverted attention, again, that word again. Let's get into video while you game. So I believe the proper term in gaming is called rewarded video ads, but in the gaming space, look, nobody's scrolling TikTok while they're gaming and competing. You just can't do it. They're not even trying to hold a conversation. That's why everyone who's gaming is in sort of a lab or black hole, like, don't bother me. But that notion of dedicated attention is what makes it so powerful. But again, I think the format is rewarded video ads, and what they do is incentivize gamers to actually watch full-length videos. And full-length, I mean, it could be a minute and a half, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, what have you. But when you start to think about that, gaming is going to be the new foundation for the younger generation. So boomers and older Gen Xers are built on TV, all things linear and cinema. The younger generations, their foundation is gaming. So video by creators. So obviously, we have another headline breaking. I didn't put it up here, but it's like the creators versus the streamers. You're going to put your money into Hulu, into Netflix, you're going to put it into TikTokers and YouTubers. But that's very much a real thing. My business case is it needs to be both, but it's real enough that the Shorty Awards exist that really rewards innovative social content, largely by creators, largely video in nature. So when we start getting award show formats that really accelerate this, then understanding that the notion of creators and their sophistication in the video space is just ramping up. Like, we've only essentially seen the beginning. We're going to start to see marketing tactics where creators are literally sat at the core. Instead of some big upfront or stadium sponsorship or some other integration, it's going to be the notion of creators. So video that is Minority Report-ish. So let me show you this one. So obviously with the advancements of digital out of home, we're starting to get into motion gesture technology, image recognition, or computer vision as they call it. So you could start to see that the landscape of video, in particular from a DOOH, is really going to start to advance. And again, these levels of opportunity aren't about reach. They're about tangible engagement in hosting and capturing the actual attention of the user for real participation. So video that is distributed. One of our partners we worked with over the years, Viral Gains, part of their business model is they literally distribute, syndicate long-form videos. So if you have something that's 8 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, they're the amplification company that can actually distribute it. This is beyond, hey, rolling or running a pre-roll that someone has to then click on to then get to a website, to then maybe they'll pay it. This is literally about paying for promoted views. We've used them from a series of shows that we've done for clients that were hosted on YouTube. But again, most people don't think about the idea of taking clients' asset, the long form, and actually distributing it as a paid guaranteed view. Instead, they're trying to find some way of buying reach for an ad that then leads them to the video that maybe they'll consume, maybe not. All right, so video that is location agnostic. So again, getting back to the programmatic nature of digital out of home now, I mean, when you start to look at, and these are just some of the players that operate in the system. Obviously, you would go through a Clear Channel, a Vistar, maybe an Outfront to actually purchase all these points of reference. But the idea is that the proliferation of digital out of home, in particular via the programmatic marketplace, leads to a whole nother ecosystem of video that most people just don't even consider or know exists. But it's obviously very real. And again, when you start looking at the level of attention or participation in digital out of home, I think some of this stuff is around 55% that actually notice the ad. Okay, that's way more than the average person who is literally dodging a banner on a website. So again, when you start to stack the metrics, attention plays into favor. When you get it on the transit journey, a lot of options here between seatback entertainment to what comes again in the sort of transit space. But again, these are very big video ecosystem opportunities in terms of exposure.
Right from your smartphone. Now there is with Aero.
So I'm going to punch through those really quickly. And then here's another one, video through peripherals. These are Ray-Ban Stories. I actually own a pair. But the idea is it actually takes video through the smart glasses themselves. And again, when you start to look at where we would go, it's really about what the video ecosystem provides beyond what we have known.
Light it up like. Light it up like. Light it up like. Light it up like. Got the fire in the flames, burn it up the street.
Hey Facebook, start video.
Now it's my time and I'm making it.
Hey, can I take a photo?
Sure.
So the future in confinement, we sort of wrap this up pretty quickly. So the first thing you want to tell yourself is the consumers value utility above all else. That's what we do. That's why hoarding exists, because we think that it's going to hold some purpose, so we won't let it go. So we really just begin to scratch the surface about how video can be the gateway to it. And a lot of it is what we're running and spinning against. The consumer really doesn't hold a value. So what are those things we will hold a value? So video with utility built into it. People talked about QR codes. It means that the spot now has some utility. You're going to transport me to something. You're going to take me to a place. My thing is that you need to make sure the QR code is on the screen during the entire ad exposure, because if you put it on as a watermark at the end, the human brain does not move fast enough to process a QR code on screen for 3 seconds. Let's try 30, and maybe you'll get some better results. Then there's the notion of shoppable TV. So this is the announcement with Roku and Walmart. And again, when you start thinking about where retail media is going, this is going to be massive. Very smart for Walmart. Hey, you see our stuff, now shop it, buy it. You know where the store is to pick it up. I mean, it's a closed-loop solution. And to me, this is probably one of the bigger existential threats to the video marketplace is this type of progress right here. And then the last one is just, next one is just video that's immersive, interactive. This will be from NextGen TV, where video gains the level of interactivity that we've largely only seen on sort of portable device. But this has obviously been here around since, I think, a little over a year and a half now. But this is going to be another offshot as well. And then video in the metaverse. So I attended this. This was actually pitch night for startups. This is marketplaces integrated or curated by Party.Space. And you can just see from the video that I have on the right, but literally I went into it and watched video of entrepreneurs pitching their startups. So yes, we will have video in the metaverse, and it would be more attentive than looking at it through Zoom, Teams, or Slack, or Blue Jeans, or whatever it is that we're all sort of nauseated from at this point. But again, when you start to realize it, again, this is that notion that video is just going to move like water in a flood. And this just shows a quick demonstration of me actually porting around in the room. That was the video screen to the right. But this is a fully programmed out metaverse space. So that's it. Thank you. Any questions?
Okay, now it's on. So any questions? Oh, well, I crossed the barrier. Oh, well.
Hi. How do you define attention? Because if it's 100% in view and it's non-skippable, and the goal isn't to register a click, how do you define it?
For myself, I'm looking at time, real time. I'm not looking at a page load. A page load is a page load. I mean, we know that between, the first thing is you have to get into the level of fraud in anything. And some of the level of fraud just means that the participation and clicks you get aren't necessarily all going to be real anyways. Bots don't watch something for 3 minutes. They don't do this on TikTok for an hour, which a lot of us are doing. They don't do the same thing on Instagram Reels. When I think about attention, I think about wherein. I think about time in. The same way that someone harnesses is a skill and gets very good at it. They always have that notion of 10,000 hours you got to program and put in to really start to master it. That's how I start to think about attention. So the whole idea about YouTube being very successful for DIY is it's showing people how to do stuff, life hacks. But those are 2 5-minute videos. So if I'm Home Depot, I want to target the people not only creating those, but watching 2 5-minute videos on how to do home improvement so you go down to the store and get all our supplies. It's very simple. The idea of a Home Depot ad loading on a page, it's not real attention. That's no more attention than the fact that somebody read the headline of the article or the characters on that particular page. So I think that's one of the reasons why native advertising does well, because the ads are in content where someone is reading an article, because that's why they're there in the first place, not to see your ad. So if the ad is part of the editorial mix and there's a content match, it does better. Again, it's almost guaranteed attention because it's a lineage between what I'm reading and what I'm consuming. So that would be my definition of real attention. Again, the thing, the consumer doesn't understand page load and viewability. They're like, did you make me sit there and consume it and consume more to the point that I decide to take an action? And I think what the problem is we're caught up in the advertising speak when marketing is the parent company. Marketing is run by a CMO who answers to a consumer. So you got to start with consumer behavior. I don't even say user session behavior. I mean consumer behavior. Like I always tell people, this is what people really do. That over there, that's not a thing. They don't do that stuff.
Anyone else?
Hi, I'm just curious. You said that you think the threat to the video marketplace is going to be shoppable ads. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, and it happens during inflationary periods, recessions, you get to this lens of performance. And that's when everyone has to tighten up and focus on the things that matter. I always tell people, clients aren't stupid, they're just busy. At some point, they get unbusy, and they start to figure it out. The fact that retail media is growing faster than CTV, but it's only been a couple articles that say it, and almost every conference that I've been to, spoken at, there's a huge focus on all things TV and CTV, and it's like, yeah, but there's a dark horse over here actually winning the race. It's kind of like people discounting Tesla, and they just rose out of nowhere and are now sort of dominating. It's the same factor. So when you start to think about the idea of HSN and QVC, and now every network is trying to mimic that because TikTok made it like a thing, like a cultural thing. This notion of TikTok made me buy it or show me how to do it or taught me is a societal shift that content by human beings can teach me something that I will then mimic. What people always have to remember is that people are an embodiment of themselves and each other. We do what we think we should be doing what other people do. So when everyone starts shopping via TV, we will all be shopping. Like how many of us are always shopping now? Always. Every day you're looking at something to buy. Okay? It used to be just for the weekend or holiday season. Now every single day we're like, do I need that? Do I need that? Okay, what do we do now when it's shoppable in that moment through the execution? Not I have to then go to another website and do research and pricing, but literally it's all spelled out. It'll become very addictive. That's why marketing's purpose, to create a marketplace between consumers, buyers, and sellers, or even to trade. It's not for reach. It's not for share of voice. That's not what marketing's for. That's part of the formula. But the real thing that we're trying to do is get people to buy more inventory so we sell out. So stuff's on back order, and there's more demand than supply. Like, that's the goal. So when I say that shoppable TV, if that ends up with every platform, every device, Samsung TV Plus does it, Apple TV does it, Roku does it, then all the retail media companies do it. Then the creators are all doing it. We're just going to be in a world where we're constantly being tempted to purchase something. And then brands are going to say, well, why are we spending on this? We could just spend on revenue return. There's not a marketer in the world who doesn't want to spend money on revenue return. They just haven't told you that yet. So to me, this is all coming. That's why part of it is agencies, traders, media companies, you need to get very prepared, which could be another shift in marketing, because that's what we've been waiting for TV to get to where desktop is, with the level of parity of data, targeting, attribution, and accountability. So that day of 50% of our marketing has been spent, I don't know what it's spent on, it's very clear if you're spending most of it on shoppable. It's not when you're spending it on share of voice.
Great. Thank you so much, Albert.